power, enough success? When is it enough? And the core answer to that is going to come from what are you looking for? Because each of us is looking for something different. Some of us are running after success for one reason. Others are running after it for another reason. Others running after it for a third reason. One thing is for sure. It doesn't bring us what we're actually looking for in life. Whether it's joy, whether it's peace, whether it's meaning, whether it's fulfillment, whatever it is. No amount of success or money or power or prestige is going to actually give us that. Which is why we've got to ask ourselves, what am I doing? When is it enough? 1 car, 2 cars, 5 cars, 5 Mercedes, 1 house, 1 mansion, 2 mansions, 3. When is it enough? At what point internally are we able to say, okay, I'm full? And this is the dilemma. Because actual food fills our stomach. We get to a point where we are full. Material possessions do not fill our heart. So it's like if my stomach is empty, but instead I'm buying clothing, well, it's never going to fill my stomach. I'm always going to stay hungry until I actually eat food. The clothing on my body doesn't fill up my stomach. In the same way that if I have no shoes and it hurts me to walk on the ground, it doesn't matter how much I eat, I still don't have shoes. My feet are still going to hurt when I walk on the ground, regardless of how much food there is in my belly. And in the same way, that emptiness that so many of us feel in our hearts, in our lives, it cannot be filled with material possessions, with that level of success, with that level of prestige or whatever level you're at on a social ladder or career ladder. You're filling the wrong bin. We keep checking in. Is my heart full yet? Does my life feel full yet? No? Okay. Another car. No? Okay. Higher paying job. More clothes. But it doesn't actually fill that which we're trying to fill. So interestingly, on the one hand, it's never enough. On the other hand, it's already much more than enough. Because all of that which the material possessions give us, we've already gotten. It's winter time. Everyone have a sweater? Or 2 or 3? Right? It's the rainy season. Everyone here have a roof that doesn't leak? An umbrella? It's dinner time. Everyone have access to food? Or some money to buy food? Once you start getting beyond these levels, beyond what Abraham Maslow called the hierarchy of needs, once we get beyond the foundational levels, bodies are filled, our basic needs are met. What beyond that? Then what do we need? Then we need deeper things, higher things. Meaning in life, fulfillment in life, deep connection, a sense of awareness of who we are, And this doesn't come just by filling up more and more from the bottom of the pyramid. So if what you're looking for is to fill your heart, it's never enough, because it won't work. But if you're honestly able to look at actually what you need, then chances are you already have way more than enough. But this is a great question to ask yourself. As you find yourself running and running and running, after more money, after more possessions, after more things, after more entertainment, after more parties, after more things that are just on the external level giving us a few moments of pleasure, a few moments of satisfaction. What are we really going for? What's really your goal? Ask yourself. Because only you can know that answer. And then only you can answer the question, is it enough yet? Am I there? And if not, am I even on the right path? I mean, if I start walking from here in Rishikesh, and I keep heading south, say I just start walking and I'm heading south and I keep heading south. But every few hours I turn around and I'm wondering if I've gotten to Kashmir yet. Am I yet in Kashmir? Well, I can walk and walk and walk until I fall off the end of India into the Indian Ocean. And I never would hit Kashmir. No matter how much I walk, because I'm walking in the wrong direction. I'm never going to get there heading south. So if you ask how much walking is enough to get from here to Kashmir, well, depends which direction you're walking, right? If I'm walking south, never enough walking. You can walk and walk and walk and walk, you'll never get there. But if instead I turn kind of northwest, eventually I'll get there in not too much time. So this is where it's critical that every one of us asks ourselves, where do I want to go? What actually am I looking for? What am I trying to fill myself up for? What's my goal? And then ask yourself, is that which I'm doing leading me to be more and more full? I may not be there yet. It may be a long journey. I mean, if my destination is Lanka, I got to go south. Long journey. Right? If I want to go back, see where the war was fought, see where they built the bridge to Lanka, well, you got to go south. But ask yourself, am I every day getting a little closer? Even if it's just a smidgen, a little closer to where I want to go. And only you can answer that. But it's one of the most important questions you'll ever ask yourself. Other questions? Yes.
Pranam Sadhviji. My question is, when the spirituality has originated on this earth, the background of my question is, when the life evolved or when the human evolved, at that time the primitive man was having only one work, hunting and resting, that's all. But when our Rishi Munis came into existence and they created our Vedas and Purans, at that time spirituality was at its maximum height. So in between the primitive man and our Rishi Munis, when the spirituality originated.
Beautiful. Could you in the back hear her question? Somebody nod or this. Did you hear the question? Yes, okay, good. So let me begin by asking you a question. When did gravity originate? Isaac Newton had an apple fall on his head, right? Or so the story goes. He then discovered gravity. He and later scientists gave us equations to understand how gravity works, based on mass, based on height, based on velocity. I mean, there's all so many different pieces that go together into an equation. But when did it originate? It was right there, right? It was there long before the apple fell on Newton's head. So in the same way, spirituality existed long before our sages and saints and rishis were able to tap into it and give us a way to understand it. Newton saw a phenomenon in the world, and he dedicated much of his life to first understanding it and then creating a system whereby other people could also understand it. The very truth of human existence, which is that we have bodies, but we are soul. We are spirit. That has been true long before our sages and rishis sat in these Himalayas. Long before the Himalayas were here. That has been true. That we are just, the form is the body. The essence is the soul, spirit. The rishis and the sages discovered something through their own meditation. They discovered something, like Newton discovered something when the apple hit him. They discovered it. They channeled it. They understood it deeply. They used internal tools. Today, physics is just beginning to start to give us, equations about planets, astronomy. Well, if you look at our Panchang, from thousands of years ago, our sages and rishis told you when there was going to be a full moon. How did they know? How did they know? No almanac, no telescopes, no calculators, no nothing. How did they know? Thousands of years ago. What the constellations were going to be, what the angle would be of the sun to the moon to Jupiter to Mars on such and such a date, hundreds and thousands of years later, because they used their inner tools. Science today only knows how to use outer tools. As good as the tools are, as good as our science is. But the rishis and the sages used the inner tools. It's how we have, Pushpak Viman long before Amelia Earhart or the Wright brothers or anybody got into an airplane. Thousands of years earlier. Inner science, inner tools. So they understood spirituality. They understood the nature of the universe through their inner tools. But they didn't invent spirituality. They simply understood the truth of our existence, that we have a body, but we are spirit, we are soul, that which we really are does not die with the body, that we have lived before, that this soul has had other bodies, that there are impressions, sanskaras, upon this energetic body that are from past lives. They tapped in and understood all of that, but they didn't invent it. They used their tools to understand how karma works, how reincarnation works, because with their inner tools they could see. They could see it all. They were not bound by laws of time and space like we are. They didn't have curtains that fell. But they didn't invent karma. They didn't invent reincarnation. They just were able to see it in a way that had never been seen before, in a way that had never been understood before. And they were able to give it to us through a system of knowledge, a science. The Vedas are a science of knowledge, of wisdom. And they were able to give it to us in that system for the first time. Wonderful. Other questions? Yes. And then here. Yes. वो जो टोपी पहन रहे हैं नहीं वो उनके पीछे था ये था फिर हम वापस आ जाएंगे. Then we'll come back.
It's a real honor to be here. The first question brings up the question about materialism versus spirituality.
About the?
Materialism,
yes.
Versus spirituality. 10% of the people own 85% of the world's wealth. Is there any justification within your spiritual belief system that allows for that bound distribution? And if not, are there any political actions on the part of this institution to change that?
Beautiful. So there's two parts to the answer of the first question. The first question being, a tiny percent of the population of the planet owns the vast majority of the wealth. Is there a spiritual understanding, justification for this? The spiritual understanding speaks about ignorance, greed. So it goes like this. It says, the very truth of who we are is divine. We've been created not only by the Creator, but of the Creator. Meaning the same infinite nature of the Creator is the same truth of ourselves. The very core of who we are is full, is whole, is complete, is divine. There's a beautiful mantra that says, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. And it means that, the capital T that, is infinite, is full, is whole, is complete. And this, which has been removed from, created out of that, is therefore also infinite, whole, complete. It's like saying, what is infinity minus one? or infinity minus 10, or infinity divided by 8 billion. Right? Infinity. So we've been created out of the infinite. Therefore, each of us is infinite. Okay? However, and I'm squeezing together depths of ancient wisdom into a 2-minute answer, so just bear with me here. However, due to ignorance, instead of identifying as the core of who we are, soul, spirit, divinity, truth, we identify as the physical body, which is temporary. It's got a size, a shape, a color. It's got skills and abilities and opportunities and resources and experiences and a history and relationships. And because we identify as this, we believe that it's never enough, right? You can never be beautiful enough, rich enough, successful enough, popular enough. Because we are feeding that which can't actually be full because it's temporary, it's matter. It's degenerating before your eyes. I am literally sitting here degenerating before your eyes. We all are. It's the nature of nature. Put as much gold and diamonds on me as you want, I am still degenerating before your eyes. But in that ignorant identification, we suffer. That is the core of suffering. That is why our spiritual practice is based on getting us out of that identification into the awareness of who we really are. Okay, so that's the spiritual foundation of why is there greed? Because I identify not as that which is full, but I identify as the material body. And I never have enough. Going back to the first question, if what I'm trying to feed is my psyche that's got holes in it, and I don't feel like I'm quite worthy enough or lovable enough or good enough, I could gobble up as much of this world as I want in that race to try to feel finally worthy, finally good enough. And it's not going to work. And this is why spiritually, well, let me come to that in a moment. If that's the second question. Stay with the first one for a moment. So the reason behind it is greed, it's ignorance. Now, there's also what we call the law of karma, meaning that in this life, that which I am receiving, the situation I am in, is based on my actions in the past. However, it is not a system of rewards and punishments. It has nothing to do with saying wealth is good, poverty is bad. Health is good, sickness is bad, success is good, failure is bad. The universe doesn't have any of those labels. The only agenda that the law of karma has is that eventually we will break free from the cycle of karma, that we will actually wake up to the truth of who we are. Always full, always whole, one with the divine, never separate, never lacking in any way. Not this body. And so the cycle of karma gives us both the results of our actions as well as those situations and circumstances that are the most conducive for each of us taking the next step closer to God. And so a lot of times people say things like, what did this child do who is dying of AIDS, of cancer, of this? I mean, what could a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 6-year-old, what could they possibly have done according to a law of karma to deserve this? But the law of karma is actually much deeper than that. So it would say longevity is not the highest goal. The highest goal is freedom. And so maybe in that case, this child who we see as an awful tragedy of dying at a year or 2, well, maybe this child in their past life was this close to full liberation, to not needing to take another body, to not needing to come back. But just there were a few remaining karmic threads that needed to be worked out. And this child was able to finish those karmas in a year, in 2 years, in 6 years. And so it looks at the situation not from the goal of thou shalt be as wealthy, as healthy, as successful, as long life as possible, but rather thou shalt wake up and realize the truth of who you are. Within that, the tragedy becomes that we take it as a static system. So I see someone who is hungry and poor, and in my ignorance I say, oh, that must be their karma. Therefore, it's not my place to intervene, or I don't need to intervene. It's not my responsibility to intervene, because see, that's their karma. But that's ignorance. Because that's me looking at it like it's a static frame, as though somehow I were separate from that person, but I'm not. Yes, they are where they are because of their karmic journey, but I am where I am, noticing them, seeing them, having the resources to help them because of my karmic journey. And so where they are at this moment is their karmic journey. But my choice to help them is my karmic journey. And if I don't make that choice, then I'm making a very clear decision in favor of what we would call bad karma. Because to not act is to act. To be able to help someone and not help them is an action. And so we're really clear that, yeah, we believe in karma. And what we believe is that if we've got the resources and the ability to help, and the compassion and the love and the wisdom and the ability and the innovation to help, that is our dharma, to help. And that's why, going into your second question in terms of what do we do, that's a very, very long list. What I would say is, on your way out, there's a table of information. Take it. You can see our websites. We're doing a lot of work in the fields of education, gender equality, women's empowerment, helping the sick, environmental protection, feeding the poor, taking care of youngsters residentially, non-residentially, poor children, orphaned children, disadvantaged in any way, boys, girls, in so many different ways, taking care of Mother Earth in whatever way we can. And just in conclusion about this, this is actually where, for me, on a really personal level, I spend a lot of my time doing spiritual teaching, whether it's sitting here, whether it's traveling and speaking, whether it's writing, whether it's online. And one of the core reasons I do it is that in addition to feeling very, very blessed to be used as an instrument, to be able in whatever small way I am to bring wisdom, inspiration, healing to people. What I also know is that people who are happy, peaceful, spiritually grounded and anchored and connected are actually assets to Mother Earth. Because they are the people who don't need to go out for shopping therapy or eating therapy or drinking therapy or suppressing or oppressing someone else therapy in order to feel better. They are the people who are living simply so that others may simply live. They're not needing to gobble up the earth's resources in order to feel okay about themselves. They're moving through the planet with an awareness of oneness and connection. And so it feels to me like a really great privilege to be able to help in whatever way I can, have people find their own inner light, inner truth, inner joy, inner peace, so that A, they can find the purpose of their lives, but B, so that they actually can be nicer, more caring, more generous humans on earth. So yeah, thanks for the question. Yes. Yeah, Samne Bia.
Hello, I'm Patrick. You mentioned maybe already what I want to ask, but what is your biggest inspiration? Where you get it from at the end?
Where do we get the greatest inspiration?
You personally.
Where do I get the greatest inspiration? I get the greatest inspiration from my guru, from Pujya Swamiji. To witness a being who literally devotes every single minute of his life, every breath in the service of others, is the most incredibly inspirational thing that I could ever imagine. If you simply told me about him, I would say, not true. You must not actually see everything. Impossible. Yeah, maybe for a week on end, maybe for a couple weeks on end, but impossible that anybody actually is like that. And if I hadn't had the blessing of being here for more than 26 years watching him every day, I wouldn't believe it. But here's what's even more inspiring about it. He loves it. It's not something he does because there's a sense of, I've got to do it. The earth is my child is in trouble, I've got to do it. But he does it actually with joy and with love, not only because he loves those he serves, but because he actually loves the very act of service. And those are two different things. Parents serve their children at all hours of the day and night because they love their children. But when they're awake at 2 in the morning, because one of the children has had a nightmare or an upset stomach, they're awake because they love the child, but they're not necessarily loving being awake, doing whatever they're doing at 2 o'clock in the morning. He not only loves those he serves, which means everyone, not even only the humans. I mean, every species, Mother Earth, everything. But he actually loves the act of service. And that is incredible to me. To see the joy, the absolute unchanging commitment and dedication of every minute, every moment. There's a story that I tell in my memoir, Hollywood to the Himalayas, but I'll tell it now under the assumption that most of you haven't read it yet. You can get copies, by the way, on your way out. But there's a chapter in it in which I shared the story of how back in 2012, we had just celebrated his 60th birthday, which was a big, huge event we had done. I had just written, actually, his biography. It had just been published. The Encyclopedia of Hinduism, which I was the managing editor of, was just finally published, done, and we were shifting from the Indian publishers to the international publishers. Work was done. It had been between so much else that's always going on, all of the schools and the women's programs and the ongoing work. It had been a very, very, very overfull, in my eyes, last several years. And we were flying. We had to go to Tokyo. There was an event in Tokyo. And about 5-6 days later, there was an event in California. And I said to him, we've got these few days in between Japan and California. You've got these devotees who live on the big island of Hawaii, who have been telling you for years to please come and visit. I said, what do you think about stopping over in Hawaii for a few days, in between Japan and California, for a little, I couldn't say vacation, because vacation's like, a 4-letter word around here, but just a few days. I needed a break. I was tired, I was feeling burned out, and I felt like a few days in Hawaii was just going to be exactly what the doctor ordered. And so I said, what do you think? And he said, okay. Amazingly. I was shocked that he said okay, but he must have known I was struggling. So he says, okay. So we get there in the evening. We've got 3-4 days that we're going to be there. We get there in the evening, go to sleep. Next morning, I wake up early, and then I go back to sleep because it's a holiday, right? So I turn around and I go back to sleep. And I wake up sometime a few hours later. It's mid-morning. And I go outside, and these people we're staying with have this beautiful home. It's overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful back deck with a swimming pool, literally right overlooking the ocean. Pujya Swamiji's had his breakfast, and he's sitting at their table, overlooking the ocean, and he's writing. And I bow, and I say, how are you? He says, oh, wonderful. And I said, what are you writing? Like, why are you working? And he says, I'm just almost done planning where all of the toilets are going to go in the upcoming Kumbh Mela. Now, The Kumbh Mela is this huge, massive, biggest gathering of any kind on earth. Hundreds of millions of people. In January of 2013, there was going to be a Maha Kumbh in Prayagraj. We were doing this huge clean Kumbh, green Kumbh program there with cleanliness and sanitation. And I said, "You're doing what?" And he says, "Yes." He says, "Before breakfast, I planned all of the toilets for the whole Char Dham Yatra, the whole pilgrimage area into the Himalayas." He said, "So now I'm already working on the ones for the Kumbh Mela." Now picture the scene. Hawaii. Beautiful backyard, balcony overlooking the Pacific Ocean. And what's he doing? Planning where he's going to put toilets so that the hundreds of millions of people who come to have a bath in the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati are going to be able to do so in a place that is clean, without there being, poop everywhere. And so that there isn't open defecation along the banks of these sacred rivers that pollute the rivers. And I share that story because it goes into a longer teaching afterwards in which he makes it really clear this isn't work for him. This is life, this is love. And so for me, that's the inspiration, is how to actually live in such a way that planning toilets is your vacation. That doing for others, whatever it may be, that is your holiday. That is your joy. And lastly, on a completely separate subject, but also an answer to your question, the other place I take inspiration, aside from the scriptures, of course, is from nature. I take a lot of inspiration from nature a lot of the times. If I'm looking for answers or ways to be, and if the way that my guru is sometimes feels like, well, maybe next life I'll be able to attain that, I look to nature. Because I feel like nature really gives us such beautiful lessons. Everything that we look for how to do, how to understand, nature's got an answer. An answer about how to live. So frequently in satsang, I'll draw upon inspiration from nature. Look at how nature does this. Look how nature does that. So for me, that's my other very great source of inspiration. I feel that Mother Nature is the place to look, to understand how to be when we're not affected, impacted, blinded by our own egos and our own ignorance. Of course, yeah. Last, Apka.
Ma'am, my question is, actually I have developed a belief in myself with all that I have known all my life. I just want to know from you whether that belief is okay, because that belief makes me do what I do, makes me directs and governs all my acts. The belief that I have developed over the years of late, that there is a supernatural power, say software or say the God, who is watching all the human beings, 750 crores, and he's watching very, minutely, mansa, vacha, karmana, all the karmas of everybody. And that software is actually marking -1, +1, -2, +2, -3, +3 for all the mansa vacha karmanas. Not only -1, +2, even in detail, the qualities, the degrees. Say -1 degree ranging from alpha to,
I get it.
-1, +1, alpha to infinity. +2, -2, alpha to infinity. +3, -3, alpha to infinity.
Okay.
And with that, every karma of me, whatever I think, whatever I do, anything, is being taken care of by the supernatural the software.
Okay.
And when my life is over, the button is pressed and my balance sheet is just tagged along with me and it is sent there.
Okay.
And I'm done.
Okay.
And that balance sheet is carried that decides where my next birth is will be, कौन से घर में मैं पैदा होऊंगा, कौन लोग होंगे उसके, उनके नेचर क्या होगी, मैं रास्ते में जब निकलूंगा तो मुझे रास्ता बताने वाला कौन होगा, ये भी डिसाइडेड होगा, because रास्ता बताने वाला कोई छोटा आदमी नहीं है.
Okay.
He is the मार्गदर्शक.
And this belief, does it lead you to act and live in ways that are in alignment with truth, with love? No, it's okay. ये जो belief आपका, does this belief that you've held your whole life, does it make you act and live truthfully, with love, with compassion, with integrity, with sharing, with all of that? Does it make you act like that?
This is the only thing, this belief only is guiding me to, मुझे तो ऐसा लगता है कि जैसे every minute of mine is going.
I understand the belief. What I'm asking is, because of the belief, do you act in ways that are honest and compassionate and caring and generous and helpful?
Yes, 100%.
Wonderful. Then the belief is great.
Thank you. 100%.
Then it's perfect.
100%.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So keep believing that.
Thank you.
It's absolutely taking you in the right direction then. Wonderful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful day to those joining us from all over the world. I look so forward to being with you all again together tomorrow. And so much love to you all.